Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Aftershocks of After Loss. I am Rachel Donnelly with Black Dress Consultants, and I am super excited to have my good friend here, Jasmine Hathaway from Compass Coordinators, to join me. Hi, there you are.
I'm so
Oh
sorry.
my gosh, no, it's totally fine. How are you?
I'm great. If this had gone totally smoothly, I would have been shocked because
I
that's
mean,
just how things go.
that's the thing about Instagram Live. I mean, you just sort of press the button and you just say a prayer and you're just hoping that all goes well because you don't get second chances. It's not like a Zoom. I mean, it's just hang on, we're about to go for a wild ride.
As it is with so many other things in life as well,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
doesn't that just pretty much sum up our jobs in a nutshell?
You're right. You're
Hang
totally
up, we're going for a wild. Hang on, we're going for a wild ride.
exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay, so why don't you tell everybody? I told it, a little bit about your name and your company, but I'd love for you to tell everybody all about yourself.
Sure. So I'm Jasmine Hathaway. I started a business called Compass Coordinators. And basically what I do is very similar to a lot of what you do, Rachel, with Black Trust Consultants, which is I'm in the really tough transitions. So I'm helping people after the loss of a loved one, typically a spouse or a parent. And I also help people after they've decided to move forward with a divorce.
Mm.
So they're going through a separation or they're in a phase in their divorce that is really just overwhelming and paperwork intensive a lot of times. And I come in as a concierge. That's a word that you and I both use.
That's our favorite buzzword.
That's right. And what that means is basically we are making connections, making appointments in some cases. We're helping with paperwork, we're filling out forms, all kinds of different things that we've talked about being sort of other duties as assigned
Yes.
because
Yeah.
there's so much in these times in our lives that falls in between what other professionals really focus on.
Yeah.
And so, I only realized that there was this gap in services through my own personal experience. And I think
Yes.
you came to it in a similar way as well.
Exactly. I mean, and I was trying to explain it to somebody. I feel like you and I mean, like I put in the little promos about this. I mean, it's like the Jerry Maguire, like Jasmine completes me, like I feel like you and I are just like when we're talk, we get each other. But I was trying to explain it. We provide a service that people don't know they need. And it's like that. I don't know if you watch Shark Tank. I watch way too much Shark Tank. But you know that invention they came up with that sits in between the seat of your car and like the dash. And it like captures all of the crumbs or your phone or straws. Like that's what we are. But for after loss, like we catch the crumbs, we make sure nothing falls to the ground. Like that's exactly what we do. Um, I don't know
I
what the
love
name of
that.
that thing is. I should have looked at the name of that before we got on this call, but and people are like, "Oh, that makes sense," and I'm like, "You didn't know you need it, and now you know you need that thing." You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to just tell you, and our audiences, like what that looks like, and
yeah,
what that looks like for me, because a lot of times people just really don't know
yeah,
what kinds of things can happen. So, in my personal experience, I lost my husband in 2015. He passed away from cancer, and I was 30 years old, a new mom with a full-time job, and I'm used to getting stuff done. Like I'm a very organized, capable person in my daily life, And I was like, okay, I think I have an idea of how to do things. Let's just sort of figure it out as we go along, do the research, just like what I normally do in other kinds of challenging situations.
Right.
And I just found myself completely overwhelmed, completely blindsided
Yeah.
by how much I was being asked to do as the surviving spouse.
Right.
I I wasn't a part of any conversations that I had ever had with
Yeah.
family or, attorneys or anyone, because, when you're that young, it's not a normal thing to talk about estate planning or whatever. So, I mean, to be totally honest with you, when I heard the word estate the first time from someone who was trying to collect a debt,
Yeah.
and they said, well, we can collect from the estate. I laughed. I said, I don't know who you think we are, but like,
Yeah.
I have a place in southern France that you can just like tap into. Like,
Exactly.
there's no estate. There's no estate. What are you talking about?
Oh my God.
So
No, and I mean, number one, I can't even imagine what you were going through. You have just lost your husband. You are a new mom. Now you add the W word. You're now a widow, and you're so young. This was so unexpected. Even though I know, he had been sick, it's always, a shock. And to start throwing in all of these terms and words and jargon that we're not used to, that's not part of our everyday vocabulary and the processes. It's really cruel and unusual punishment for family members.
yeah, I mean, that's how I felt. I was like, this can't be right. I mean, it can't be. We had amazing care from hospitals and hospice.
Mm-hmm.
There's one in particular, one social worker who was just like beyond awesome, and she did everything she could to help me. And then
Mm-hmm.
there came a point where she was like, listen, like, I wish I could do more for you, but I can't. Like, I have other, patients, other families, and I just can't like go along this journey with you. And I was like, I understand, of course, but like, who does? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. What is the
is,
1-800 number that I can call
yeah,
to help? And
exactly.
I mean, and I don't know if you experienced this. I experienced this when I would call custodians, the account, service providers. They didn't know what probate or letters testamentary or executor. They weren't really hip around the processes and the procedures. So it is really like the blind leading the blind, and something that you and I both went to the school of hard knocks on to figure out, which is just so unfair.
Yeah. And I want to hear your story too. I guess, mine really, it started immediately after my husband passed. And I think yours kind of evolved over time a little bit, but for me, I was like, okay, someone just tell me the next step. And it was the death certificate. Like, you need the death certificate before you can do anything. So I was like, that I understand. Like, okay, like one clear step, got to get the death certificate, and then I can go through and figure out like all of these accounts and contact different people or whatever. So I'm like, all right, the funeral home is the one who gets the death certificate.
Right.
That was news to me. So,
you're like,
okay, already learning things. And they said it takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So I said, okay, and I make a little note. 6 weeks later, I'm calling the funeral home saying, I still don't have the death certificate. What is going on? And, I'm already getting calls from his student loan, and I'm already trying to like figure out even what to tell these people when I don't have the death certificate. So I hear from the funeral home that they have the death certificate, but it has my name wrong on it. So
that is so common.
I had no idea. I was like, surely I can't be the only person in the universe to have had this issue. Yeah. But I was like, well, what happens now? Like,
yeah.
And they were like, well, also, not only did they have my name wrong, they had whited out. So this was 2015. They were using whiteout on an official.
Do they still make whiteout? I didn't know that. Okay, but anyway, we'll touch on that later. But okay.
So it looked like they had my name correct, and someone had whited it out and typed the wrong name over. So I'm like, all right, someone's clearly made a mistake.
Right.
What happens now? So that started this whole process that took, all told, 5 months of calling.
Holy moly.
Yep. So I'm trying to move forward to figure out what happens now, because it moves. Once you have to submit a different form, that's an amendment, and it goes from the county health department to vital records in the state. Right. And I'm trying to track this down, and also at the same time I'm saying, like, who's accountable for this? Because there was a mistake that was made, and I'm used to functioning in a business environment where if someone makes a mistake, they fix it.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're accountable, and they say, I'm so sorry. Right. Let me get that corrected for you. And, maybe here's a coupon for the next, I know.
Exactly.
That is not how government works.
No. Oh my gosh. No.
That's not how, so like every single step of the way, I'm thinking, like, I'm in a nightmare. Like, I am living a nightmare, on so many different levels.
Because that death certificate, and this is a bad analogy, but it's like the keys to the kingdom. You have to have that.
You can't
else nothing can get started. Nothing.
That's right. Exactly. So, I mean, that was really the point where, I really was like, this is the worst thing that you could do to a widow because it just, I have a very strong, like, streak for justice that runs through me, and it was.
Didn't know that.
I know, shocking, right? So it's really hitting me in that justice kind of space, and I'm saying, like, this can't be correct. That the systems that we have put in place, that humans have created, I feel like that kept getting lost. Like, oh, it's just the way that things happen.
It's just the way that things are done. Things have always been done. Things will always be done. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That this is something that we have created collectively that really lets down people experiencing the loss of a loved one. Yeah. I mean, it's just, this can't be the way that we do it. And so, when I was looking for someone like my wedding coordinator,
yes,
I had just hired her 3 years prior, and she was amazing, right? Like, I didn't have to worry about a single thing. When vendors were getting sketchy or they weren't calling me back or whatever, she was like, don't worry about a thing. I got this.
Got it. Yeah. Boom.
I was like, who's like you? Who's like you that can keep track of these follow-ups, who can, chase down these people, who can, like, figure out, like, okay, if I'm hitting a dead end with these government people and vital records, who can step in and help with that kind of thing?
Whose boss's boss do I need to call at this point? Yeah.
Because I had no interest in doing that, and who does ever, honestly?
Yeah.
But when I'm grieving profoundly and trying to, like, figure out how to put one foot in front of the other and do my job and come and parent a 1-year-old, like, I was like, what do other people do? Like,
I know. And that's the thing. You're like, what do other people do? And if you and I have experienced this, like, we know that there are infinite others who've experienced the same thing.
yeah.
And
When did you have that
oh
light
my
bulb?
God. I remember the day very clearly, but I lost my dad when I was 16. I lost my mom. It was one of those situations. She was, diagnosed with cancer, went in for surgery, never came out. But it was really cruel and unusual punishment because I just started a new job the week she got diagnosed. And so I started a new job. I had no time off in the first 90 days. And to make matters worse, I had left my job at Emory University in her hospital room. I could see my old office from her hospital room. So I was like, wow, thanks life. That's awesome. So, and I had 2 and a 4-year-old. And so my mom passed away, and that left me in charge of her brother, my uncle. So she had been managing his care. He was in latter stages of Parkinson's. He lived out of state. And so all of a sudden, my mom passed away pretty suddenly after she went to the hospital, and I had to manage her estate, take over the care for my uncle. I had just started a new job. I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I had all of these things going, and I lasted at that job for a couple more months, and I was like, I have to take some time off. Like, I have to. I physically, mentally, logistically cannot handle all of these things, from decluttering and unfurnishing homes. My mom had several homes, finding an attorney to redo all of my uncle's stuff. And then my uncle died about 2 years ago, and I'm still not done probating his estate. But I remember the day I was standing in the parking lot of his bank, and I'd been there for 6 hours. And after going back and forth and having the death certificate and the letters testamental and the, my ID and blood and urine, I'm kidding. But, like, it felt like they needed everything. And they were like, we're so sorry. With this bank, you have to go open the estate account in the state in which your uncle died. And I just remember going in the parking lot and just standing there and being like, this is utterly bananas. And I mean, I could go through countless of stories probating and settling my mom's estate, but I was like, this is insanity. How do you expect people? Now, I'm one of the lucky ones. I got to be an executor twice. But, how do people figure this out? Like, you have to become this detective, this project manager, this, all of these different hats to figure out the business of dying. And I was like, why isn't there anybody who can help me do all of these things? Find the vendors, keep track of all of the logistics, manage the paperwork, find me an attorney if the one I've hired is not working, all of the things. And it was like, ding, I'm sure you had it, that light bulb moment of, if there's a problem, what's the solution, and how can we, create this? And I love, your analogy of the wedding coordinator, because that's so mainstream. Everybody, they get that. They're like, yep, you get married, you hire a wedding coordinator.
Right, because it's so much work.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're spending all your time, like, we've all been at work with that girl who is planning her wedding.
Yeah.
She's doing that stuff at work because, like, you have to. Like,
Yes.
it can be all consuming. And, it wasn't until I had that personal experience with loss that I realized, it is also all consuming to go through a tough life transition. The wedding is exciting and you want to be doing that kind of stuff, but I mean, there are just there's an incredible number of demands placed on the executor of the estate that I had no idea of.
I know it's crazy. If you're just joining us, I'm with my fellow, just sister from another mister, my fellow after loss consultant professional, Jasmine Hathaway of Compass Coordinators, who, just as I always say, as all great friendships start these days on Instagram. We connected via Instagram and we have become fast friends and advocates of each other. And speaking of being an advocate for you, I want to talk a little bit about the prize that you just won, because I'm so stinking excited for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so Instagram is this amazing platform. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with it, to be honest.
You and me both. You and me both.
Anyways, so I'm on Instagram and I see this post from Ally Bank, and their headquarters is not in Charlotte. Anyways, they have a large presence in Charlotte, and so I'm familiar with the bank, and I see this post saying that they are looking for entrepreneurs who are disrupting in their industry, female entrepreneurs. And I see this and I'm like, I think they're talking about me. I think I might be a disruptor. I'm never thought of myself that way. I don't know if you think of yourself as disrupting an industry.
I do. Not to not that I'm being, I don't know, toot my own horn or anything, but I do think we are creating a new niche.
Well, that's how I thought of it. I just saw the gap and I knew there was a better way to do things. And so, that's the lens that I was using. It's just like filling a need that I saw. And, but when I was thinking about this idea of disrupting, sometimes that word kind of gets thrown around.
I know, it's a very overused word, I think. Yeah.
But, I just was like, I don't have anything to lose at this point. And, the prize was pretty big. They were giving away $30,000. So, I was
nothing to shake a stick at.
For someone who's bootstrapping our business, $30,000.
$300.
We're open to receiving some money,
Yes,
so
we are.
I gave it a shot. I just did a little video explaining, that I am filling the
great video. It was a good video. I watched it. It was awesome.
Yeah. So what I did is I just explained, it had a maximum time of 60 seconds.
Oh my gosh.
You and I can talk for quite a while, so you know how hard it is to get it down. So, it was just basically saying, this is what I'm doing. I'm coming into this space and helping with these logistical paperwork, kind of these tasks that no one wants to do on a good day, but I'm doing it for people who have experienced the loss of a loved one or divorce. And I also mentioned, a lot of the other business owners that I'm connecting clients with, these attorneys and financial advisors and therapists and these other people are also female business owners.
Right.
So,
right.
I'm in this really cool place to help a lot of people in our world, in our circles. And so I was chosen as a finalist, and that was exciting enough. Yeah. But then when I found out I won first prize, I was just blown away.
Oh my gosh.
Such an incredible honor.
But you and I have talked about this. I think it just goes to show that, yes, you and I are so passionate about this. Yes, we could talk about this till the cows come home. We can get up on our soapboxes, but we have that validation from the outside that, yes, why hasn't somebody figured this out? Why is, and here is someone who's like, all right, I'm going to lean into a really difficult space. I'm going to tackle those tasks that nobody wants to do. And, as this death positive movement is continuing to grow or spread, whatever, I think it is just that validation. Even though I didn't win the prize, you did, but I'm just gonna hook my wagon, up, behind yours. I think it is so exciting to have that validation that yes, we are creating something great.
No, I mean, I think you should see it as a shared win because, it really does kind of, it does sort of add a certain layer of credibility,
Yeah.
and it also just raises awareness that there are people like you and me who are out there
Yeah.
doing this kind of work. But, I want to talk about the other people who are like you and me that we've
Yeah.
connected with.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's, I know I'm pretty sure you feel the same way, but I've just been blown away by the people that I've met. I just saw Christine Andriola on here from New Narrative. All of the people in what we're calling the death tech space. And then, you and I in sort of the one-on-one concierge consulting. But then we've met up with Sunny Care Services in Nashville and loss of life advocates in San Antonio and bereavement navigators here in Atlanta and several other businesses that, it's like we're finding each other and we are having that fist bump moment of, oh my gosh, there are others out here and we're stronger together.
Yeah, exactly. And what was so amazing about connecting with you and those other women that you just mentioned, I just have been so blown away by the strength and the vision that these women have, because we all came to it from personal experience with loss.
Yeah.
And we all felt drawn to
Yeah.
help others avoid some of the pain that we personally had experienced.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to circle back to that about what that may evolve into. But I think in order to go there, I think it's important for us to distinguish what it is that we do, what makes an after loss professional, like what, I feel like all the time that I'm like rattling off 3,000 things that we can help with.
Right.
And that's not helpful sometimes. Like sometimes people are like, okay, but can you come in at this time and this time? So let's talk about, because our businesses are similar but different, but we still share that commonality of the after loss services.
Sure.
So how, when you have a client referral, a networking call, what is your sort of elevator pitch?
Yeah, so I focus really heavily on the organization and the prioritization that I bring to the table. I also have found that it's really valuable for the people that I speak with that I'm sort of a neutral third party in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
So, when they're in these kind of tough spots and dealing with loss and grief, and a lot of times that comes with family issues and drama. And it can be really, really, really valuable to have someone come in who is going to focus on the practical, on the actual tasks that need to be done, and set the drama aside. And so, you just like kind of remove some of that like high emotion around it and help the family figure out like, okay, we don't need to do everything at one time.
Exactly.
We can move through this in a specific order that makes a lot of sense. So you're not walking into any landmines and closing a bank account that you need, to.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Calling and canceling a credit card that all of your subscriptions and everything is on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I come in and help families create that custom plan and then execute on it. So, there are things that my clients want to be the one to do in a lot of cases, and there are things that they are happy to hand off.
Yes.
For example, the phone calls to all of those companies that, you know, require you to say the words over and over and over again
Mhm.
that, you know, my spouse has passed away, or, you know,
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
dad has just died. You know, just like just the thought of telling these strangers the worst news of your life
Hmm.
again and again, you know, that alone is something that can bring people to me, and they say like, well, you know, this is what I really need you to do. So I can focus on that, or I can offer a much longer engagement to help them navigate any of those surprises and
Yeah.
aftershocks that come up
Yes.
that
Yes.
no one really sees coming.
Yeah. And that's what it is. I mean, it's this aftershock that are these big ripples, and then they just slowly start to pan out, and then you're like, oh my God, we're still in this, like it's still happening.
So what do you say with your elevator pitch? Where do you
Very,
emphasize?
very similar, just logistical guidance,
Mm-hmm.
managing those unavoidable tasks that just come with end of life and after loss, meeting the client where they are,